Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Those of you that are gonna maybe one day happen across this video, rest assured that I am not creating these videos for attention. I'm creating them for day-to-day people that might actually want to hear what I have to say because it might be something relatable. And a lot of times it's something that other people don't say. So um, if you ever feel shut out about things and you happen to have things in common with me, maybe this video will be refreshing and welcomed. So, and I would welcome you to watch as well. So, in this video, I wanted to kind of pick up on where I left off last time, which I can hardly really remember. I think I, went off on my rant about people being whores, and a good parent has to be old fashioned and, you know, not hoary. And so I just want to reiterate that when I say whore, it's very like a condensed adjective to describe somebody that's like kind of, just kind of wants to, I guess in today's world, and it changes in every, I'm sure every stage of civilization. In this stage of civilization, as people get removed from the day-to-day hardships of people, um, by being following the mainstream of things, like, well, if you ever want to be anybody, this is what you have to do. Unfortunately, when you do that, and in this world, when you do that, and that's what your goal is, your sole goal is to remove yourself from the riffraff, so to speak. You don't want to, you think you're better than everybody. And you know what, let's just be honest, we all do. And then some of us are a little bit more timid. We're a little bit more, some of us are just like abused and hazed by other people that, don't want us to excel. Some of us are nerdy and, lock ourselves away and, um, never expose ourselves to any trouble. And so, um, but that is kind of the, um, a little bit of the, I don't want to say pitfall or downfall. I am looking for, it's the tragedy of how people actually get in a position where they're then voted into a position of responsibility towards other people's lives. you, you're gonna, and people, I think people that get to a position that's far in life forget how forgiving people are. There's a reason why people didn't want to do that. There's a reason that held them back. And you can probably relate to it. And it's something that, but you got there and we want to support you and we want to make it happen. And so unfortunately is we need to see a little bit more authenticity in people's personality and character and how comfortable they are with themselves, and how trusting they are of other people, because that is a leader that other people can be confident about. And no, there's really no reason why, as I was growing up in the Reagan administration through my formative years, for it to have mattered if it wasn't going to be because I knew that I was going to come up against like many, but equally, capable individuals, perfectly suitable and adequate to perform a job. And the only reason that they were going to get there, in my case, what I believe in, this is where I might be a little bit more, I wouldn't say zealot, but I think God has his hand in things. But but it is going to be somebody that really just is more like a natural fit for that position at the time, and everybody should be happy for them. So when I say poor, I mean like like the reason why this world is going to end. When I say the whore of Babylon, I mean that there's going to be one nation that is the reason why this entire world ends. That's no reason to, to cry over or like feel less than yourself over. But hopefully it is a reason for people to reflect and say, like, oh, well, am I participating? I mean, obviously the whore is against me and doesn't want you to hear that that really all the horror of, the force that be that is leading to our destruction is has cheated death, because it's a spiritual war to me again. And so, and I don't want to say, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I think, it's the bearer of good news, and the bearer of good news is exactly that. When you say the bearer of good news, it means this is bad news. I mean, there's going to be people that go in this direction, and nobody can do anything about it, because everybody has their hands tied because of the system that we create that makes it possible for everybody to kind of like stay in their own hierarchy, in their own chain of command, and their own hierarchy. So we created that, and now we're learning that that's leading to a world where um, heterosexuals are being pushed out of the scene. Heterosexuals are no longer, there's nothing wrong with either or. There's nothing wrong with binary. There's nothing, it's only there's something wrong with either or when it creates chaos between two people's relationship, when there's like so many other alternatives and outcomes to any decision you can make. But people that are confused with who they are and in themselves don't, want to make it about everybody else's problem, and everybody else. People don't know they have a vagina, people don't know they have a penis. Well, that's kind of like important. The organs that you're born with, and again, I've said before, everybody is has a tendency to wonder, I think. I mean, I would, maybe there's people that don't, I don't know. I mean, there's people that are like, angels are always protecting them. The people that do wonder have to come back to their senses and to what God intended for them, for their own good, for them to be a good, better, safer, happier person. And for God, that means find me, find me, accept me, cultivate me in your heart, let me grow with you, and you will prosper. That's all it is. I mean, you can prosper with Satan too. It's going to be very, you know, flighty, momentary, no roots. People that are superficial, you have to know, like, people that are superficial. Okay, are you interested in getting a little bit, having depth? You want to, you want more substance. You want to have like roots in what you're actually saying. If they don't, you know what? They just learn to play a game, and they're superficial, and that's it. There's nothing to it. That's all it is. Okay, so um and unfortunately, yes, with the whore of today's times, economically speaking, it doesn't mean you have to be a prostitute that, has like your little corner on Broadway or anything like that. It means more, you kind of join like a circle of people, and you need their approval or validation, and you don't question anything anymore. Like, you just become this, you're basically a group, think, you know, exclusive, that you don't want to. And the danger with that is that who's in control of it and who's getting hurt. You don't want to know. You don't ask. So if people were interested in finding out a little bit more about the types of laws and uh, stances on certain policy that's going to affect us all, have taken, they will, and they should. And I don't, people shouldn't be allowed to vote if they don't do this kind of homework, okay? But enough of that, because again, this is America, and America is not for whining losers unless you're a Democrat, um, at least as far as these days are concerned. So I'm going to read Sirach 41, and I'm going to start with verse 5. A reprobate line are the children of sinners, and witless offspring are in the homes of the wicked. Their dominion is lost to sinners, children, and sinners' children. In other words, the children of sinners, and reproach abides with their descendants. Children curse their wicked father, for they suffer disgrace through him. Woe to you, O sinful men, who forsake the law of the Most High. If you have children, calamity will seize them. You will beget them only for groaning. When you stumble, there is lasting joy. At death, you become a curse. Whatever is of naught returns to naught, so to the godless from void to void. Man's body is a fleeting thing, but a virtuous name will never be annihilated. Have a care for your name, for it will stand by you better than precious treasures in the thousands. The boon of life is for limited days, but a good name for days without number. True and false shame is the next section. So I'm going to stop there. There's Sirach is actually, I've read through it, and I keep in my head when I read this. I've read it a long time ago, and some things like stuck to me, but I didn't commit like the chapter or verse to memory. So I'm trying to read through it just so that I can share my the inspired word and how it's inspired me, and how I found reinforcement, and what makes me whole. This is what makes me whole. When I think, not just where my grandmas, the same way, that are very old fashioned and want to have values, and you don't always know what other people. Um, I don't believe in prejudice and judging the book by its cover, but and so you learn, and for me, it's just I love the fact that I can always come back to my roots, and know that, oh, my grandma never read Sirach to me, but she certainly practiced values. Her dated her comportment, basically, and the way she carried herself spoke more than for everything that I'm going to find is reinforced when I come back to that, because that was a very healthy, solid foundation for anyone, I think, to spring from, and spring beautifully, and just bloom into the best you can, because there was a foundation there. So yeah, some people's or their values are only developed to the extent that their decisions impact their immediate lives. They're not really understanding what's happening, because it's too, it's blinding when you get to a position where you worked hard. It's kind of like it's not angering, but it's unfair for people to like. Well, everybody gets up and reads and has to work, and so did you. That's great. I mean, you made smarter decisions, made better connections. I get it. You had more money, et cetera, et cetera. And nobody is going to reproach you just as much as nobody would reproach the next person, except that I will actually say that if it was a white person that was voted on, wouldn't have made it with the kinds of case decisions that Mrs. Brown has made. So, and with that, I guess I wanted to, I guess, make a little bit of fun of myself because I want to use the word whore in a way that isn't like a street slang type of word. And I want to use it more like, and it's not like, like a husband would call, his wife a whore or anything like that because he's a drunkard, like a drunken person that, comes home and catches her in bed or is at work all day and just gets paranoid and calls her a whore anyway because she is not interested in him anymore. I don't know. I went to a meeting once. I had, well, whatever. Anyhow, so I do want to read to you. So that was that. I'm going to look for another. Actually, that wasn't the verse that I was looking for, but that came close enough, and it was still a good one. There's a different one that I think it has more to a more a bigger weight on the role of a woman and posterity. So I'll find it eventually. But let me go ahead and talk about a what is this called? This was called a remix. The of when Biden said, "Do you know the thing?" I was kind of like thinking to myself, like I should probably I should reword it so that it was like, "Oh, come on, you know the whore. Oh, do you know the whore? What's the whore? Oh, do you know the whore?" And so I'm gonna I have to actually create the wording behind it, but I think that it's a little bit more like I think it'd be funny, and I think that it would kind of like get people to wonder if I'm like trying to disrespect this administration. Oh yeah, no, I'm just kidding. No, 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 no. People disrespect themselves. Come on, come on. But I think it would be funny because he totally was like, oh wait, he says like this. He goes, he says like, oh, I'm gonna get like into my little. Sorry, I had teenage kid. That's no excuse anymore. Actually, I'm a grandma, and my kids are grown. He reads, "He holds these truths to be self-evident that all men are." Oh, come on, you know the thing. And I would think it's funny if he said like, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all all." Oh, come on, you know. Oh, do you know the horse? You know the horse. Oh, do you know the horse? Open for always like sort of self-scrutinizing and make sure that we're not being a part of the whore of Babylon that's going to eventually destroy us. And it's going to destroy us, but God has an out for us, and that's the good news. God, that might be bad news, but our good news is God has an out for people that believe that that's what's going to happen. And as long as you turn the other cheek, you stay centered, self-controlled, cool, collected, and calm. Um, you're good. You're going to the next level, and it's not even about a game. It's about the truth, because he's truth. So with that, I'm gonna leave you. You should listen to that. It was actually pretty funny when I heard it once, because it's not funny anymore. I just think it's like seriously, that's something like a creepy person does. Like I just want to like make you think that I don't know what I'm talking about, even though I just like went and pooped all over Ukraine and Russia so that they can get into a fight. Because that's what I do is I pit people so that nobody looks in my direction. So very evil. Thank you. Not smart because it's unless you keep lying, then what's that? What it snowballs, and okay, I'm just going off. No, good night, everybody.